opportunities if somebody's interested in taking on some action one-on-one. Typically, when we look at disasters, in some cases, the local government, the local community has the capacity to handle that incident themselves. There's a lot of resilience here. There's a lot of those community organizations that are coming in. There's the individuals in your community, the small businesses. Everybody is coming together to help solve these problems, and that's where recovery starts. In some cases, when the capacity of the incident is really large and you need additional resources to come in to help support, that's when we start scaling up in our levels of assistance. We start looking outside of that local level, outside of your regional voluntary organizations, bringing in those voluntary organizations from across the country, looking at the state government and all the different programs we have in existence that can be dedicated to help with this incident, and then also looking at what potential federal opportunities are out there. So that being said, I want to talk a little bit about technical and financial assistance because that's something that really drives recovery forward. You need the resources and the knowledge in order to make decisions. And recovery is full of decisions. Even in the short term for an individual, how are you going to access your home? How are you going to access those crisis cleanup resources that was previously mentioned in order to start sifting through the debris? What are the health and human public health concerns around all of these issues? How are you going to start considering what your future looks like 1 year out when maybe at that point your home is not rebuilt yet, 3 years out and maybe your home is not rebuilt yet? What does this mean for you and your family as you're planning for the next 3, 5+ years? So when we talk about assistance, we also mentioned this earlier, it's really important that the first line of defense is somebody's personal insurance, looking at property insurance and the things that that covers, because that really is the primary form of assistance. And whatever type of funds that person, that community, that government has in place for emergencies like this, that's the first stop. Any other type of recovery program is not going to duplicate what type of benefits insurance provides. So really every type of recovery program at the state, federal level through volunteer organizations, we're looking at what the unmet need is, and the insurance is meeting the initial need in theory. So usually assistance doesn't come in the form of a check. So when we talk about assistance, we're looking at very specific programs that fit a need. And one example I like to use, and this is more of on a community scale, is that we see that these fires are really impacting a lot of wildlands, a lot of slopes, where we're starting to see concerns for future flood after fire risk, right? So we have resources at the state we can bring in for assessments and understanding what that risk looks like and starting to build projects to mitigate that risk in the future. There's also a lot of federal organizations that provide assistance. A lot of people think FEMA as the primary version of federal assistance, but there's really dozens of programs out there that can fit the need, like the Emergency Watershed Protection Program under the Natural Resource Conservation Service, which also helps build those projects for mitigating flood risk after fire. So again, we're here to help navigate that situation and understand the need and connect you to the resource, or help understand what those resources are in order to make that decision. I will say volunteer organizations are sometimes an overlooked resource. They really provide a lot of resources up from, disaster occurs through this crisis cleanup effort and debris removal and debris management, all the way through the rebuilding process. So I would say definitely stay connected to your voluntary organizations and exactly how they can help fill your needs. A note on the state. There are dozens of agencies who have different subject matter expertise, different programs that can provide support to this. We all operate independently, but we also coordinate under what we call the State Recovery Task Force. So we're all talking with each other. And some examples of how that's already taken place is insurance. The Division of Insurance is part of the State Recovery Task Force. They have subject matter expertise as it relates to insurance. They have a webinar tomorrow at 5 p.m. And if you go to their website, there's additional information on how to register for that. They're coordinated through the State Recovery Task Force. The Department of Local Affairs was here very early on to help establish the Disaster Assistance Center at the county level. And they've been here along the way in order to help stand up a recovery structure and talk about recovery management in the long term. They're part of the State Recovery Task Force. Another one for small business organizations and those local financial institutions, small business development centers and chambers of commerce are all involved with their Office of Economic Development and International Trade. That's a long acronym, OEDIT. who have resources for those types of communities. So recovery is happening on all of those levels independently and also together. And that's really where the success comes, is when we're all collaborating, we're talking about what the need is, we're actually understanding what that need is through assessments, through reporting, through understanding damages and unmet needs of the community. And we're coming together to find out what the right solution is to fit that need. That's really what recovery is all about. One more note on financial assistance. It becomes a patchwork. A lot of recovery programs are not intended to make an individual or a business or a community whole. They are intended to supplement certain things that may help somebody get back on their feet. So when we see this patchwork, we're looking at insurance, maybe somebody's personal funds. There may be some disaster grants or loans available depending on the situation. There's philanthropic and private investments, so donations. We've seen that United Way has really gone a long way in collecting money for this disaster for the wildfire fund. And there's a system being developed around that in order to dedicate those funds to the disaster. So that is another resource potentially. And there's others. Again, as we go through this process, some of those will become available. And I think that really points to the importance of public information. And in a second, I'll hand it over to Mickey Trost, who's our public information officer. But because things are ever changing and new resources are found and new knowledge is needed in order to make those decisions around insurance and mortgage and navigating all of the things that happen for an individual post-disaster, especially in the short term, there needs to be clear communication on what that is, or at least a center point where people can go for information. So earlier I heard that there's a plan from DAC to RAC, going from a disaster assistance center where a lot of these resources are housed, a lot of these state agencies and voluntary agencies are represented, to a more long-term version of that, which is the Recovery Assistance Center. So I would recommend definitely finding where those funnels of information are, trustworthy access to information at your county level, and at the state level, to make sure that you're getting that quality information and battling the misinformation uphill battle that exists out there. So sorry to steal your thunder a little bit, Mickey, but I'll hand it over to you for any additional public information comments.
Hi, Kelly. So one of the biggest things that we need to be aware of for this part of recovery is that our focus is on managing expectations for the community. There's going to be a lot of misinformation out there. We need to make sure that timely and valid information is being shared, and that we get that information out in chunks so that it's easily digestible. You know, some of the initial questions that we need to look for and be ready to answer for those expectations is there aren't checks or credit cards that are being issued. The recovery program doesn't duplicate any other payment. So it doesn't duplicate insurance. It doesn't duplicate any other funding that comes into an individual. The programs don't replace non-essential items. So the focus of the recovery programs are to get you back to a safe, secure location, a place to live. And so it's helping replace stuff like a furnace or a water heater or replacing drywall to make your home safe, but it is not rebuilding that home necessarily. One of the key points is to make sure that we are really pushing out that property insurance is the best, fastest way to recovery, and that these recovery programs don't replace a homeowner's or property owner's need to have that insurance. And so the biggest reason for that is most of these programs have limited assistance. And so like for the FEMA Individual Assistance Program, the max payment is just under $44,000. And so again, that's the expectation management. We are going to have to heavily rely on our non-governmental organization partners. They will be doing a lot of the assistance and cleanup and recovery. And so we really need to make sure that we get people connected to them. And then just as a last thought, really pushing, if our community members haven't contacted their insurance company, they need to do it now. Again, it is the fastest, best way to recover, and that is the first step because we can't duplicate anything that their insurance policy is going to do. That's it, Kelly.
Thanks, Mickey. I'll just round out my comments by saying that expectation management piece is huge because of the misinformation that may be out there. And because unfortunately, these time frames are long, it takes a long time to get rid of all of that debris. It takes many passes through the neighborhood to select the very different types of debris and dispose of them in very different ways. There's so many details related to this that the public information piece is going to be critical in order to efficiently work through this process. So expectations management, it's long, it's expensive, it's complicated. But if there's one thing I've observed and that I know, it's that, like I mentioned, collaboration is the way we get through this. Bringing together these diverse partners in order to bring their expertise to the table and solve these problems in creative ways is what recovery is all about. And that's what Colorado is all about. And what I've witnessed, that's what Pueblo is all about. So I'm really excited to be here and to help you guys through this process. We have so many people here who can answer any question that you have. So with that, I'll just ask Jim, Raymond, do you have any other comments? Okay. Josh, and one more thank you to you for having us in your EOC and opening up your arms to us in there because it's been such a collaborative process working through these early days of recovery with you. And I just wanted to say thanks again for that. Yeah.
So thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Mickey, for being here. Thank you to all of our other state partners. It takes a village. We have people here from California, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Pitkin County, Jefferson County, Larimer County. As you guys know, I have a staff of 2, and a staff of 2 couldn't manage this alone. So it takes a lot of people, which brings me to one of the points that I want to mention, and Kelly kind of touched on, is a recovery manager. This is a very specialized area of knowledge. In emergency management, I've taken dozens of classes. I've got hundreds of certifications. I'm working on my doctorate in emergency management. However, I know this much about recovery. I can spell recovery, but I am certainly not the expert at a year, 2 year, 3 years worth of recovery knowledge. So I believe all 3 commissioners and I have had conversations over the last few days. We are of the opinion we need an expert. We need a recovery manager. So I have prepared a recovery and resilience manager job description based on several examples, 5, 6, 7, 8 that we've collected from all over the state, from Huerfano County when they had the spring fire, roughly 2017, from the Marshall Fire, from Larimer County, from multiple places, many of which were provided by Kelly and her team. And we've taken the best parts of all of those and put them into a job description that we believe fits what we need here in Pueblo County. Thanks to Amy and her team from DOLA, they have helped us work on a grant application that will help secure funding that'll pay 75% on year 1, 50% on year 2, 25% on year 3 of the salary for that. So we have a grant application that I've submitted to Mr. Hirsch for legal. I believe this will be on your Thursday agenda. We're working to accomplish that for the grant application. But we've run it through DOLA and they don't see any issues. They've passed it up through their contracts team to kind of proofread, if you will, for any red flags. It doesn't sound like they believe there will be any. So pending approval by the board on your Thursday agenda and passage, we can apply for that grant to cover the salary, help offset the cost of that position. And then we can work to hire somebody. I'm told from DOLA that process from application submittal to approval or denial would take roughly 2 weeks. I mean, this is considered an emergency process, so it's not a long application process. I have been working with Trish, our new chief HR administrator, if I'm saying that right. She has the job description that's been approved by Sheriff Lucero. Recovery is one of the 5 pillars of emergency management: prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery. So we feel it's best placed in our office under my purview. And so their job, their sole job would be all things recovery, all things resilience. And so as we talk about, DAC to RAC, as Commissioner McFeeters put it, that's kind of a catchy name. There's 4 or 5 different names for what that recovery assistance center could be. It's also in some areas called a MARC, a multi-agency recovery center. So again, the name may be up in the air, but so I wanted to brief you on, there's a grant that can pay for it. If you approve of the position, then we can work on getting that new position created and work on getting somebody hired. I've been told there's even somebody in county, a current county employee, who may be interested in said position. So that's parts 1 and 2. Number 3 is we believe we've secured a location for the long-term RAC, for lack of a better term, which will be with District 60 and at the Beulah Heights Elementary School. District 60 is currently consolidating 6 schools into 3. And so that Beulah Heights School down right off Pueblo Boulevard in Delphinium, kind of catty corner to the south side Lowe's, is going to be empty. Long term, they're going to turn it into a professional development site for their staff. But for the next year and a half, maybe 2-year period, it's going to sit empty. They have it budgeted to pay for utilities, a janitor 5 days a week, grounds maintenance, et cetera. And so Commissioner McFeeters was in that meeting yesterday, and Dr. Kimsey agreed to offer that to us at no charge. And I think we can all agree that free is a good idea. Being an elementary school, it should meet all of our size requirements for the donations. We can put things there. We can use the classrooms. We get total reign of the school. If we need to house and open up a secondary shelter to complement our Parks and Recs facility, we could use the gymnasium for that. Or if we don't end up needing to use that as a shelter site, we can use the gymnasium for storage of all these pallets of donations and things that are going to support our community over the next 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, 18 months. We do have a tour there this afternoon just to go lay eyes on the site, truly make sure it feels like the proper place for this type of establishment. Sheriff Lucero has graciously offered our labor crew so we can help with the upkeep. So one janitor isn't trying to maintain the entire building. And I think we're even talking about throwing in, we will maintain the grounds with that labor crew. Dr. Kimsey gave a little pushback going, we already have it budgeted. And I said, no, let's be good neighbors. You're paying the electricity bill and all the water bill. We can mow your grass for you. So trying to, again, establish a good partnership. What that would amount to is an MOU between the county and District 60. We would have it. This new recovery manager would oversee it. That would be their primary job. In the interim, until we hire that position, we have it worked out where my deputy emergency manager, Chris Harner, along with one of Tammy Torres's DHS deputies, and Jennifer Wagner from Planning and Zoning, the 3 of them are going to work in concert to maintain a county presence at the site, helping kind of herd the cats, if you will, make sure things are flowing smoothly, questions are being answered, all the voluntary and NGO organizations are working and have what they need, and be that constant link back to me, back to you as a representative. So we've talked about the location, we've talked about the job position, we've talked about the possible grant pending your approval. Are there any questions? This is a lot of information to throw at you at once, but what can I answer for you?
I can jump in. Yesterday, we talked a lot about debris removal and the likely need to have a debris removal contractor doing the work, but then also the monitoring. And we would likely want those 2 agencies to be independent of one another. I'm curious about the debris removal that's happening right now, mostly under the purview of the VOADs.
Mm-hmm.
Are we concerned with that? Because what I heard loud and clear yesterday was you want to be careful with debris removal because you can really mess it up from the jump and preclude yourself from getting reimbursed on the back end. So with the VOADs doing the work seemingly right this instant up there in our community, are we concerned with their debris removal practices and where they're putting that stuff? Or are we only concerned once the county becomes responsible for whatever that may look like?
So the two answers I have for you right now, Commissioner, and then I would see if Nathan wants to chime in here. We currently have a total of, we have dumpsters placed in the community, but at this time, those dumpsters are only for rotten food from the communities as they're reentering their homes. They have made a total of 23 turns. I think we have 8 dumpsters out, and they have been exchanged 23 times. And I believe these are 30 cubic yard dumpsters. That tells you how many cubic feet. It's over 690 cubic yards of waste that's been removed from the communities that have been let in so far.
Just food.
Just food from the refrigerators and freezers. We have not yet started, to my knowledge, debris. What we want to avoid, and that's why it's so imperative that we get these contracts in place, and I've been emailing Mr. Hirsch several examples, is we don't want people, one, to start removing things that could be dangerous or hazardous to their health, considered hazardous waste. And if we don't get a plan put in place quick enough, if they just put it out on their curb, once it goes out on the right of way, that does become the county's issue. So we're trying to quickly create the plan, put the plan into effect, get the contractors in place so we can be working with these with our citizens, as opposed to being on the hook entirely after the fact. The VOADs we're trying to guide people, as Kelly mentioned, to their insurance agents, because their insurance agencies will hire proper, reputable people and will clean up according to normal standards. They're not just going to dump it on the curb, if you will. But if we don't do anything, we're afraid that people are just going to place it on the curb and make it our responsibility. So to your point, Commissioner, yes, we need to get these contracts in place. Most counties do a 5 years, $0 contract, just so we have them on retainer. And then when we have a disaster, we can activate them quickly. And so I believe that's what we're working on right now. Did I state that correctly, Nate? Anything you want to add?
The only thing I would add real quick is and that is the importance of contacting your insurance and trying to get that ball
Yes.
rolling as quickly as possible for everything that you said. But in addition to that, if you start putting things out and then contact insurance, I mean, you can get hammered on the back end by your insurance company. So
Correct. And so the VOADs, we want to use those. I don't want to send a VOAD to your house when your insurance is going to pay and take care of it for you. We want to use our volunteers, their time, their energy, their effort where it's needed most, on the people who are either underinsured or lack insurance. So use them where they're needed, as Kelly was saying. I did provide Mr. Hirsch 2 names this morning, companies, one of which the county has contracted with in the past. They're actually the company that wrote our hazard mitigation plan. So we have used them. It was a $65,000 contract that ended just last year, Synergy Disaster Recovery. They do monitoring. And then another company that Jeffco, which I'll let Nate speak to in a moment, has used and is aware of. So they do the monitoring portion. And then, like you said, sir, keeping the hauling separate. So the one who's monitoring isn't also the one that doesn't have any impropriety or appearance of impropriety.
Josh, can you just real quick for the acronyms that get thrown around, give us the VOAD? What is that so that our
Sorry.
community understands that?
VOAD are voluntary organizations who are active in disaster.
Voluntary organizations active in disaster.
Yep, VOAD.
Gotcha.
And so Casey Fox, who you've met in our EOC, she's from Colorado VOAD. So she oversees the Colorado VOAD and kind of everybody down below. We do have a SoCo, Southern Colorado VOAD, that is not as active. It's not as formalized and tight as it is at the state level. But it includes all those voluntary organizations, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, the United Way. And so, each county, each group, each region, slightly different, but Casey's the one that helps oversee it at the larger level. Emmett, who you've met, has that really strong Texas draw. He's from Texas and helps oversee their VOAD program. So they're up here helping us with bringing all those resources that, frankly, I knew some of, but there's so many more that I was not even aware of.
Thank you.
he's from Houston, but not Houston proper, I'll tell you.
So you have met him.
Yeah. Hey, Casey, real quick, man. I mean, she's just phenomenal. So
She's here until the very end.
Yeah.
We will stay at least 30 days and then we'll come back more if we need her.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nathan Whittington, Emergency Manager, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. I have been working with, and I apologize, I don't know their last names, Arnold and Jennifer.
Yep.
I did give them a plan that both Josh and I worked on when we were deployed to the hurricanes 2 years ago in Florida. It is a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 debris management plan. So day 1 here, day 2, in day 1, here's the 4 or 5 things you need to do for debris management, debris collection, debris monitoring. So I've been working with them. And then I think at some point yesterday, I had all of you all in some meeting or another, really kind of laying out your framework that has worked in the past, and what recovery buckets and who the lead agencies are, so that way, when agencies like myself have to go to Jeffco to deal with nothing, you guys have the framework that Pueblo can carry on with and keep moving forward with. So, anything else? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so as he mentioned, we stood up our long-term recovery group, and so that meeting took place yesterday. At the bare bones minimum, we started creating the group and the people that are going to lead it for the next, again, 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years. And that recovery manager, once we get them hired, will be the leader of that permanent standing group. Hopefully, when this is done in a year and a half, they won't ever have to meet, but maybe once a year, just convene, make sure everybody's still there, update the roster. But if we have another disaster, we will bring that group right back together because it's been created, everybody knows each other, and they can just jump right in and we won't have to do all these setup pieces.
Appreciate
Other
it.
questions?
Josh, when we're talking to constituents, what is the most important thing that we need to impress upon them if we have a 5-minute conversation with somebody from Colorado City, Rye, Beulah?
I guess the most important part is we're coming. Let us know what your need is. If they haven't registered, guide them to the QR code or the phone number. We don't know what we don't know. If we don't know that you need help, we're not going to send you help. So we need people to register at that QR code. As Tammy mentioned in our press conference yesterday, don't be too proud. These services are available for a reason. And I've talked to a few people that said, I'm not worthy. I don't need that. I don't want to take resources that maybe he needs because he's worse off than I am. No, there's help to go around. Some of these VOADs will help sift through the debris at your home to help find your lost wedding ring, your mother's ashes, things like that. Other people, younger, I keep calling them college kids, that'll come in and help just remove the debris. They will help throw it in the dumpster so you don't have to. We have different groups that will do different things, but we don't know that you need help unless you tell us you need help. Sorry, go ahead.
All I was going to say, sorry, is just in addition to that, even if you feel like you don't need any help or need anything, I mean, isn't it beneficial for us as a whole, as a community, for reporting purposes and then going back to try and get recovery dollars and all these things too? I mean, the more that we
Absolutely.
know, the better. So, I mean,
More data points we have, the more data, the better our decisions can be.
What about, Josh, somebody that has a property up there, might not be their primary residence, but they have a property that wasn't affected at all? Do we want an accounting? Are
Sure.
they considered a survivor in all of this?
Absolutely.
And we want their data in the portal as well to know.
Absolutely. They may have smoke damage. The air quality, which we've been monitoring since roughly day 4 or 5, we put an air quality monitor at the Beulah Fire Station, has been horrific. It was at one day, I think 300 or 400. And really, we want it to be below 50 is, relatively safe. So, astronomically higher than the acceptable average. So they may just have smoke damage, but they say, oh, my house is fine.
Right.
There are VOADs that have expertise in helping you clean up smoke damage from your house, your carpets, your curtains, your bedding. The pair of pants I put on yesterday to go to work, I had washed over the weekend. They still smelled like smoke from being in Beulah last week. So, I mean, those are things we can help with. Now, we can't solve every problem, but if we don't know about it, we can't help.
in essence, if you were evacuated or in the impacted zone, register and sign up.
Register, because that's how we can guide you to the best, most appropriate help. To those that are still evacuated this morning, for your awareness, commissioners, if you weren't aware, we have lifted all of the P1, P2, P3, which is everything north of Highway 78, south of 96, the Red Creek, Siloam Road area, those got lifted. They're in a pre-evac status as of 10 o'clock. So 36 minutes ago. I'm gonna mess up the zones. Forgive me while I look at my phone, my text messages. I will tell you, we removed many of the zones from even pre-evac status. Beulah, P6 and P7. So Beulah down 3R Road down to Crow Cutoff, they are no longer even on pre-evac status. They are completely clear. That took place at 10 o'clock this morning. That was the phone call I had to step out for.
Thank you.
So we are working, we are getting people in as fast as we can. New evacuations are taking place this morning. Werfenau is evacuating H17, which is, if you were to look at a map, where down towards Rye, Greenhorn, it gets into the Pueblo, Custer, Werfenau County line. It is getting close enough. It's less than half a mile from their county. And so Werfenau County is starting to do evacuations. So the fire is not out yet. During the press conference yesterday, we've lost 4 firefighters in the state in the last 2.5 weeks, from helicopters crashing, airplanes crashing. This is dangerous work. So we want to get people home as fast as we can, but with 5, 6, 7 helicopters flying at the same time, 2, 3, 4 airplanes are flying. Fire can move 1 to 2 to 3 miles per hour if it really got with it in the right weather conditions. It's just not safe to release that Rye area just yet. So we understand the frustration. We understand your frustration. I'm frustrated. We want to get them home as fast as we can.
Thank you, Josh.
So I think I had a paradigm shift when he said in regard to that disaster portal. I was thinking it was for people whose homes had burned down.
Mhm.
I think we need to be loud and clear about the fact that if you were an evacuee, then you need to go to that disaster.
If you were
portal.
affected.
We're asking politely, please go to the survivor portal, and so that we have the full set of data that we can base.
You may not need all of the services, but there may be something we can help you with.
Perfect.
And quite frankly, you might not need anything, but for reporting purposes. So yeah, I mean, I agree. We need to push that as hard as possible, and to stress, even if you feel you were not impacted at all, you may have been, and it is helpful to the county as a whole and to your community as a whole to do that.
One thing I would add that I heard yesterday in several of the meetings I attended was getting folks back to the quote new normal.
Yeah.
And the expectation that they're going to be going back to the community they left. And the reality is the community they left may not be the same community. And that's hard to hear
It
because
is.
I do believe many of our citizens and residents want to get back to what they've known without knowing it's changed. And it's a very difficult transition of thought to say it's going to be, you're going back, but it's different.
Yes.
There might be businesses lost. There might be homeowners that don't come back.
Yes, ma'am.
Those are hard realities, and we've seen it in other disasters across the country where a community changes because of a disaster.
Purely anecdotally, I've heard of 2 or 3 homeowners in the Beulah area that said they will not rebuild.
Yeah.
That could be because they were secondary homes like summer cabins that just, I go there in the summer, but I'm not going to spend the time to rebuild. It's not worth it. Or I don't live there full time. So we'll just let it be. Whatever the case is, they're not going back. So now you don't have your neighbor that used to hang out with every summer. So the new normal, I think, is the more proper term than normal.
Right. It's hard to hear.
Yes, ma'am.
Before I let you walk out of this room, sir, I just want to say one more time how much I respect you, how grateful I am for you. You're a legitimate hero in all of this. Chris Harner, I know Josh gets to be, the pretty face.
I've got a face for radio, so let's be honest here.
But Chris, same to you, my friend. You guys are heroes to the community in all of this. Good job.
I thank you for the words, but